Eli Carter had always been a man of routines. Every evening, he would sit in the dimly lit control room of his small space observatory, surrounded by blinking monitors and humming machines. His life was simple, quiet, predictable, and safe. He preferred it that way. As an astrophysicist, Eli spent most of his time studying distant stars and galaxies, dreaming of adventures he knew he'd never take. But all of that changed one fateful night. It started innocently enough. Eli was testing a new quantum communication device designed to send messages across light years. The machine, nicknamed Echolink, was supposed to transmit data to nearby probes exploring the edges of Earth's solar system. However, something went wrong, or perhaps something extraordinary happened. While calibrating the equipment, Eli accidentally intercepted a signal from deep space. At first, he thought it was just static, but then strange patterns began to emerge. The message wasn't random. It seemed deliberate, almost like a code. Curiosity got the better of him. Using Echolink's universal translator, a feature still in its experimental phase, Eli tried to decode the transmission. What came out on his screen made no sense at all. Glowing symbols danced across the monitor, accompanied by faint musical tones. Thinking it might be some kind of distress call, Eli typed a cautious reply. "Hello? Is anyone there?" He didn't expect a response. But moments later, the screen flickered again, and the symbols rearranged themselves into something resembling words. A robotic voice crackled through the speakers. "Bond accepted. Union confirmed." Before Eli could process what had just happened, alarms blared throughout the observatory. Lights flashed red as the entire facility shook violently. Outside, a massive starship descended from the sky, its sleek silver hull reflecting the moonlight. It hovered silently above the ground before deploying a beam of light that enveloped Eli. Before he could even scream, he vanished. When Eli regained consciousness, he found himself aboard the alien vessel. Everything around him glowed with soft, iridescent colors, and the air smelled faintly of ozone. Strangers moved past him, tall, elegant beings with shimmering skin and elongated limbs. They spoke in melodic whispers, their language flowing like music. One of them stepped forward, her presence commanding yet graceful. She wore intricate robes adorned with crystalline patterns that shifted as she moved. "I am Queen Leora of the Zixari Empire," she said, her voice resonating in Eli's mind rather than his ears. Telepathy. That's how they communicated. Eli's knees nearly buckled under the weight of her gaze. Her eyes glowed faintly, filled with both curiosity and disdain. What is this?" Eli stammered, clutching the sides of his lab coat. "Why am I here?" Leora tilted her head slightly, as if studying an unfamiliar creature. "You are my consort," she replied matter-of-factly. "Through your actions tonight, you have initiated the sacred bonding rite of our people." Eli's jaw dropped. "What? No. There must be some mistake. I'm just a scientist. I don't even know what bonding means." Leora raised a hand, silencing him. "There is no mistake. Your transmission triggered our ancient protocols. By responding, you accepted the terms of union." Eli felt panic rising in his chest. This couldn't be real. It had to be a dream, or worse, a prank gone horribly wrong. Yet the towering aliens surrounding him were anything but imaginary. Their expressions were unreadable, but their body language radiated authority and power. As the ship continued its journey toward Zixa Prime, Eli slumped into a chair, overwhelmed by the absurdity of his situation. How could this happen? He was nobody, an ordinary man who barely left his house, let alone Earth. And now he was married to an alien queen. Little did Eli know, his accidental marriage would change not only his life, but also the fate of an entire empire. For now, though, all he could do was stare out the window at the endless expanse of stars, wondering how everything had gone so terribly and wonderfully wrong. When the starship finally landed on Zixa Prime, Eli stepped out into a world unlike anything he'd ever imagined. The air shimmered with golden light, and towering crystalline structures stretched toward the sky, their surfaces glowing faintly as if alive. Streams of water floated mid-air, twisting and turning in impossible shapes. It was breathtaking, but also terrifying. Every face he passed belonged to someone who seemed impossibly perfect, radiating an aura of grace and power that made him feel painfully out of place. Queen Leora led him through the bustling streets of the capital city, her presence commanding instant respect from everyone they encountered. Eli shuffled awkwardly behind her, trying not to trip over his own feet. His plain clothes, a wrinkled lab coat, and faded jeans drew curious stares from the elegant Zixari citizens. Some whispered among themselves, their melodic voices carrying undertones of amusement or disdain. Eli couldn't understand what they were saying, but their expressions told him everything he needed to know. He didn't belong here. At the palace, things only got worse. The grand hall was filled with advisors, dignitaries, and courtiers, all waiting to meet the human who had somehow become their queen's consort. They greeted him with polite nods, though their eyes betrayed skepticism. One elderly advisor even muttered under his breath, "This is the creature our queen has chosen. He looks like a child playing dress-up." Eli wanted to shrink into the floor. He felt completely out of his depth, overwhelmed by the sheer opulence of it all. Gold filigree decorated every wall, and holographic displays hovered above intricate tables laden with exotic fruits and glowing beverages. Even the chairs seemed designed for beings far more refined than him. When he accidentally knocked over a delicate vase while reaching for a drink, the room fell silent. Eli turned bright red, stammering apologies as servants rushed to clean up the mess. Leora watched the scene unfold with mixed emotions. Part of her shared her people's doubts about this clumsy outsider, but another part of her saw something else. A raw honesty, a vulnerability she rarely encountered in her own kind. She decided to give him a chance. "Come," she said, motioning for him to follow her. "Let me show you something." She took him to a quiet balcony overlooking the city. For the first time since arriving, Eli felt a moment of peace. The view was stunning, with rivers of liquid light weaving through the landscape below. Leora stood beside him, her expression softening. "You must forgive my people," she began. "They are unused to outsiders, and your arrival has caused quite a stir." "I can imagine," Eli replied dryly, still embarrassed by the earlier incident. "Look, I don't even know how I ended up here. This whole thing feels like some kind of cosmic joke." "It is no joke," Leora said firmly. "Our traditions are sacred. Whether we agree with them or not, they bind us together. You triggered the bonding rite. It cannot be undone." Eli sighed, running a hand through his messy hair. "Great, so now what? Am I supposed to just pretend I fit in?" "No one expects you to change overnight," Leora admitted, "but you will need to learn about our culture, our customs, and perhaps most importantly, about yourself." Over the next few days, Eli threw himself into learning everything he could about Zixari society. With Leora's reluctant guidance, he discovered their advanced technology, which relied heavily on harmony between organic and synthetic materials. He marveled at their empathic abilities, realizing that their telepathic communication allowed them to share emotions and thoughts instantly. But understanding these concepts was easier said than done. More than once, he accidentally offended someone by misinterpreting their tone or gestures. Despite the challenges, moments of connection began to emerge. During a formal dinner, Eli tried using humor to break the ice, telling a self-deprecating story about his clumsiness back on Earth. To his surprise, the room erupted in laughter, not mocking, but genuine. Even Leora smiled, her lips curving upward in a way that made his heart skip a beat. Yet trouble loomed beneath the surface. Whispers of rebellion spread among the traditionalists, who viewed Eli as a threat to their way of life. High Chancellor Veyron, a stern figure with piercing eyes, openly questioned Leora's decision to keep him around. "He is a distraction," Varen declared during a council meeting. "One that weakens your authority, your majesty." Leora shot him a sharp look. "My authority is not yours to question." As tensions rose, so did the unspoken bond between Eli and Leora. Though neither dared admit it yet, they were beginning to rely on each other, not just as allies, but as friends. And maybe, just maybe, something more. Eli's days on Zixa Prime became a whirlwind of lessons, mistakes, and small victories. Determined to prove he wasn't just some clumsy outsider, he threw himself into learning the intricacies of Zixuri culture. Leora assigned him a tutor named Kale, a patient but stern advisor who specialized in diplomacy. Under Kale's guidance, Eli began to grasp the delicate balance of power within the empire. He learned how decisions were made, how emotions influenced politics, and why every gesture carried meaning. But no matter how hard Eli tried, there were moments when his human instincts clashed with Zixuri customs. During one council meeting, he accidentally interrupted a noblewoman mid-sentence, a grave insult in their society. The room fell silent, and Eli froze, realizing his blunder. Before anyone could react, Leora stepped in, smoothly redirecting the conversation and saving him from further embarrassment. Later, she pulled him aside. "You must be careful," she said, her tone firm but not unkind. "Every word you speak, every action you take, it matters here more than you realize." "I'm trying," Eli replied, frustration creeping into his voice. "But it's like walking through a minefield. I don't know what'll set people off next." Leora studied him for a moment, then softened. "Perhaps it is time you experienced something that might help bridge the gap between us." She introduced him to shared resonance, a deeply intimate practice unique to the Zixari. By linking their minds temporarily, they could share thoughts, feelings, and memories without speaking. At first, Eli hesitated. Opening himself up so completely felt terrifying. But curiosity won out, and he agreed to try. The experience was overwhelming. As their minds connected, Eli saw flashes of Leora's life. Her lonely childhood as a future queen, the weight of centuries-old traditions pressing down on her, and her quiet longing for freedom. In return, Leora glimpsed fragments of Eli's world, his love for stargazing, his awkwardness around people, and his deep-seated fear of failure. When the connection ended, they both stood breathless, staring at each other with newfound understanding. "It's amazing," Eli murmured, still processing what he'd seen. "You carry so much." "And you carry more than you let others see," Leora replied softly. For the first time, she looked at him not as an outsider, but as someone who truly understood her struggles. Their bond deepened, but danger lurked nearby. High Chancellor Varen grew bolder in his opposition to Eli, spreading rumors among the court that the human consort was unfit to stand beside their queen. His words fueled unrest, and soon protests erupted outside the palace gates. Angry crowds chanted slogans calling for Eli's removal, accusing him of corrupting their sacred traditions. One evening, while attending a public ceremony, disaster struck. A masked figure lunged at Eli with a glowing blade, its energy crackling ominously. Time seemed to slow as Leora reacted instantly, shoving Eli out of harm's way and taking the brunt of the attack herself. Her shimmering robes absorbed most of the impact, but a gash appeared on her arm, leaking iridescent blood. "Leora," Eli shouted, panic gripping him as he helped her to her feet. Guards swarmed the attacker, dragging them away, but the damage was done. The crowd gasped, and whispers of chaos rippled through the square. "I'm fine," Leora insisted, wincing as medics tended to her wound. She turned to face the crowd, her voice ringing out clear and commanding. "This act of violence will not divide us. My consort is here because fate, and our laws, have decreed it. To harm him is to harm me, and to harm me is to harm this empire." Her words silenced the murmurs, but Eli knew the danger wasn't over. As they returned to the palace, he couldn't shake the image of Leora shielding him. Why had she risked her life for him? Was it duty, or something deeper? That night, sitting alone in his quarters, Eli realized the truth. He cared about her, not just as a queen or an ally, but as a person. And if he wanted to protect her and their fragile partnership, he needed to step up. No more stumbling through Zixari customs. No more hiding behind excuses. It was time to become the man she believed he could be. Little did he know, his resolve would soon be tested in ways neither of them could have anticipated. The assassination attempt left a scar, not just on Leora's arm, but on the fragile peace of Zixa Prime. Rumors swirled like wildfire through the Empire, fueled by High Chancellor Veyron and his faction of traditionalists. They claimed Eli was a curse, an outsider whose presence had angered the ancient spirits of their people. Protests grew louder, and whispers of rebellion spread to distant provinces. For the first time in centuries, the Zixari Empire teetered on the edge of chaos. Eli couldn't ignore the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He knew he had to act, not just for himself, but for Leora and the empire she loved. With Kel's help, he began digging deeper into the unrest, searching for evidence that could expose Veyron's role in the attack. Late at night, he pored over intercepted communications and security footage, piecing together clues while trying not to feel like an imposter in this alien world. His efforts paid off when he discovered something shocking: encrypted messages linking Veyron to the assassin. The Chancellor hadn't acted alone. He'd conspired with rogue elements from neighboring systems who opposed Leora's progressive reforms. Armed with this evidence, Eli confronted Leora in her private chambers. "We need to stop him," Eli said urgently, holding up the data tablet. "If we don't act now, he'll tear everything apart." Leora studied the information, her glowing eyes narrowing. "This is treason," she said quietly, her voice trembling with suppressed anger. "Veyron has served my family for generations. I never imagined." "Sometimes betrayal comes from those closest to us," Eli replied gently. "But you can't let him win. You have to show your people that change isn't something to fear. It's something to embrace." Inspired by Eli's determination, Leora made a bold decision. She announced a grand assembly, a gathering of representatives from every corner of the empire, including marginalized species often overlooked by the ruling class. Her goal was clear: rewrite the laws of governance to reflect unity and inclusivity rather than rigid tradition. It was a risky move, one that would either solidify her rule or spark outright rebellion. As preparations for the assembly began, Eli took on the role of unofficial ambassador. Using his knowledge of diplomacy and psychology, he worked tirelessly to build bridges between factions. He met with skeptical nobles, nervous delegates, and even hostile dissenters, listening to their concerns and finding common ground. His human perspective became invaluable, offering fresh ideas that challenged long-held beliefs. One evening, after a particularly grueling negotiation session, Leora found Eli slumped in a chair, staring blankly at the ceiling. She sat beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You're doing well," she said softly. "Better than anyone expected." "I'm just trying to keep up," Eli admitted with a tired laugh. "Half the time, I still feel like I'm faking it." "You're not faking anything," Leora replied firmly. "You've earned their respect, not because of where you come from, but because of what you've done, and because of who you are." Her words warmed him, but there was no time to dwell on them. The closer the assembly drew, the more volatile the situation became. Sabotage attempts disrupted supply lines, and anonymous threats flooded the palace's communication channels. Yet amidst the turmoil, Eli and Leora grew closer than ever. Their shared resonance sessions became moments of solace, allowing them to recharge and refocus. On the eve of the assembly, as they stood together overlooking the city bathed in twilight, Leora turned to Eli. "Tomorrow will decide the fate of this empire, and perhaps our future together." Eli nodded, his resolve unwavering. "Then we'll face it together." Little did they know, the assembly would reveal secrets buried deep within Zix's history, secrets that could either unite the Empire or destroy it forever. The Grand Assembly began with a tense atmosphere as representatives from across the Zixari Empire gathered in the opulent Celestial Hall. The room sparkled with crystalline chandeliers and shimmering holograms displaying constellations of distant galaxies. Delegates sat at long, curved tables arranged like petals around a central dais where Leora presided, her presence commanding yet calm. Eli stood beside her, feeling both proud and out of place, his human form starkly contrasting with the elegant Zixari delegates. As discussions unfolded, tensions flared. Traditionalists argued fiercely against reform, claiming that change would weaken their empire's ancient foundations. Progressives countered with passionate speeches about unity and innovation. Amidst the heated debates, Eli noticed something peculiar, a recurring symbol etched into the robes of several dissenting delegates. It matched a design he'd seen before during his research into Veyron's conspiracy. Determined to investigate further, Eli slipped away during a recess and followed one of the delegates to an underground chamber beneath the palace. Inside, he discovered a hidden archive filled with ancient artifacts and glowing scrolls. One artifact caught his eye, a sphere pulsating with soft blue light, covered in intricate carvings. As he touched it, visions flooded his mind. Images of starships traveling between worlds, beings of different species working together, and a vast alliance spanning countless galaxies. Among them, Earth appeared briefly, its oceans gleaming under sunlight. Eli realized this was proof of the Zixari people's forgotten past. Long ago, they had been part of a galactic coalition, thriving through cooperation and shared knowledge. But over time, isolationist policies erased these memories, leaving only rigid traditions behind. This revelation could unite the Empire or shatter it completely. Returning to the assembly, Eli presented the sphere to Leora and explained what he'd learned. Her eyes widened as she absorbed the implications. "This changes everything," she whispered. Turning to the gathered delegates, she held up the artifact. "Our ancestors were not alone. They built bridges between stars, forged alliances, and created peace. We must honor their legacy by doing the same." The room erupted in murmurs. Some delegates were awestruck, others remained skeptical. Veyron stood abruptly, his voice cutting through the chaos. "These are lies meant to divide us. Our strength lies in purity, not foreign interference." But Eli stepped forward, addressing the crowd directly. "Your traditions are beautiful, but clinging to them blindly has blinded you to your own history. Look at this artifact. It shows a future worth striving for. A united galaxy is possible if we embrace it." His words struck a chord. Many delegates nodded in agreement, while others hesitated. Sensing an opportunity, Leora proposed a vote to form a new council dedicated to exploring interstellar diplomacy. After hours of deliberation, the motion passed narrowly, signaling a fragile but hopeful shift toward progress. That night, Eli and Leora celebrated quietly in her chambers. Exhausted but exhilarated, they discussed the challenges ahead. "This is just the beginning," Leora said, gazing at the artifact. "There's so much more to uncover." "And so many more worlds to meet," Eli added, smiling. For the first time, he truly felt like he belonged, not just to Zixa Prime, but to something far greater. Yet as they prepared for their next journey, neither realized how deeply the secrets of the stars would test their bond and reshape the fate of the universe. With the Assembly's approval, Eli and Leora embarked on a daring expedition to uncover more about the ancient galactic alliance hinted at by the glowing sphere. Their journey took them far beyond Zixa Prime, into uncharted regions of space where stars burned brighter and nebulae shimmered like liquid rainbows. Accompanied by a small fleet of Zixari ships, they followed coordinates encoded in the artifact's carvings, hoping to find evidence of other civilizations. The first world they reached was Erethus, a planet covered in towering silver trees that hummed softly with energy. Its inhabitants, tall and slender beings with translucent skin, greeted them cautiously but respectfully. Through shared resonance, a skill Eli had grown surprisingly adept at, they communicated their mission. The Arathians revealed that their ancestors had once been part of the same coalition as the Zixari, but centuries of isolation had erased those memories. When shown the glowing sphere, their leaders recognized it immediately. "This is proof of our shared heritage," said an elder named Solon, his voice resonating like a soft chime. "But beware, the legacy of unity also carries danger." Solon explained that remnants of the old alliance still existed, though fractured and hidden. Some factions sought to revive the coalition, while others worked tirelessly to destroy it, fearing its influence would dilute their power. One such faction controlled a rogue black hole expanding rapidly through nearby systems, consuming planets in its path. It was no natural phenomenon. It was a weapon, unleashed by those who opposed unity. Eli and Leora faced a choice: return home and focus on rebuilding Zixa Prime, or risk everything to stop the black hole and protect countless innocent lives. Without hesitation, they chose the latter. Together with the Arathians, they devised a plan to stabilize the anomaly using a combination of Zixari technology and human ingenuity. Eli proposed constructing a massive containment device powered by harmonic resonance, leveraging the empathic abilities of both species. The operation was perilous. Teams worked around the clock to assemble the device aboard a colossal starship, braving radiation storms and gravitational anomalies. Eli coordinated efforts between engineers, scientists, and diplomats, proving himself indispensable. Meanwhile, Leora led the diplomatic front, rallying support from neighboring systems and ensuring cooperation among diverse allies. As the final phase approached, tensions ran high. The containment device required precise calibration, and one mistake could doom them all. During a critical moment, Eli noticed a miscalculation in the energy flow. Acting quickly, he adjusted the settings manually, exposing himself to dangerous levels of radiation. By the time the team pulled him away, the device was operational, but Eli collapsed, weak and pale. Leora rushed to his side, her glowing eyes filled with worry. "You shouldn't have risked your life," she said, her voice trembling. "I wasn't going to let you down," Eli replied faintly, managing a weak smile. "Besides, we're in this together, remember." When the containment device activated, a wave of stabilizing energy enveloped the black hole, halting its expansion. Cheers erupted across the fleet as the threat dissipated. For the first time in generations, multiple species celebrated side by side, united by a common victory. Back on Zixa Prime, news of their success spread like wildfire. The Empire hailed Eli and Leora as heroes, silencing dissenters and solidifying their leadership. More importantly, their actions inspired hope for a new era of intergalactic cooperation. As Eli recovered in Leora's care, he realized something profound. He wasn't just an accidental consort anymore. He was a bridge between worlds, a symbol of what could be achieved when differences were embraced rather than feared. And alongside Leora, he felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, the aftermath of the black hole mission transformed Zixa Prime in ways no one could have predicted. Eli and Leora's success earned them not just loyalty from their own people, but admiration across the galaxy. Delegates from dozens of planets arrived for a historic summit, eager to rebuild the ancient alliance that had once united countless species. The Celestial Hall, once a place of division, now buzzed with excitement as representatives shared stories, exchanged ideas, and forged bonds. Eli stood beside Leora on the grand balcony overlooking the city, watching as delegates mingled below. His lab coat was gone, replaced by elegant Zixari robes, tailored to fit his human frame. He still felt like an outsider sometimes, but now it didn't bother him. Instead, he embraced it. His differences made him unique, a living reminder that unity wasn't about sameness. It was about celebrating diversity. "You've come so far," Leora said softly, her voice carrying warmth. "Do you remember the first day you arrived? You looked like you wanted to run back to your observatory. Eli chuckled, scratching the back of his neck. Yeah, I thought I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. Turns out, it might have been the best thing that ever happened to me. Leora smiled, her glowing eyes reflecting the golden light of the setting sun. And to me as well. Their partnership had grown stronger with each challenge they faced together. What began as an accidental marriage had blossomed into something real, a deep bond built on trust, respect, and love. They weren't just queen and consort anymore. They were equals, partners in every sense of the word. Inside the hall, the summit reached its climax. Leaders signed treaties pledging mutual aid and cooperation, vowing to work together against threats both natural and artificial. The Zixari Empire became the heart of this new coalition, a beacon of progress and inclusivity under Leora's visionary leadership. And Eli, he became its unofficial ambassador, using his knack for diplomacy to bridge gaps between cultures and inspire hope. As the ceremony concluded, Leora addressed the gathered crowd. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter, not just for our empire, but for all sentient beings. Let us honor the legacy of our ancestors while forging a brighter future for generations to come. Her words were met with thunderous applause, and when she stepped down from the podium, Eli took her hand. Together, they walked onto the balcony, where cheers erupted from the thousands gathered outside. Fireworks lit up the night sky, painting it with vibrant colors. For a moment, everything felt perfect. Later that evening, Eli and Leora sat quietly on the same balcony, gazing at the stars. "Do you think Earth will join us someday?" Eli asked, his voice tinged with curiosity. "I believe so," Leora replied. "Your world has much to offer, and much to gain, from this alliance. When the time is right, we'll reach out." Eli nodded, feeling the surge of pride for his home planet. Someday, humans would stand alongside Zixari, Arathians, and countless others as equals. Until then, he would continue doing what he did best: learning, adapting, and building bridges. As the two leaned against the railing, their hands intertwined, Eli realized how far he'd come. From a lonely astrophysicist staring at distant stars, he had become a key figure in shaping the destiny of an entire galaxy. It wasn't the life he imagined, but it was infinitely better. Above them, the cosmos stretched endlessly, full of mysteries waiting to be explored. Eli smiled, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, he wouldn't face them alone. With Leora by his side, he was ready to embrace the infinite possibilities of the universe. And so, beneath the shimmering skies of Zixa Prime, their story became legend, a tale of hope, unity, and the power of connection that transcended worlds.